Okay, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 8th, and I now call to order the 2093rd regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will the clerk take roll call, please, and confirm that there's a quorum?
They will. Councilmember Jessup.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Espinosa.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman.
Present.
And Councilmember Boyle has requested to be excused. Mayor Hernandez is present. We also have City Administrator Rizzatello, City Attorney Ree Colwell, Deputy Finance Director Desiree Schmeck. I thought I saw on here a minute ago.
She's there.
Okay. There she is. Deputy City Clerk Sherry St. Clair, myself, and from Blue Zones, we have with us Megan DeBolt, Emily Brown, and Catherine DePonte. And I do have one quick question for Mr. Rizzatello. I have a person from DKS in the attendee list.
Yeah.
Are they supposed to be a panelist?
Yeah, I texted you that for just now for Tamarson.
I will.
He texted you just now, Lisa.
Yeah.
You're not on top of it.
I'm only watching 3 screens at once. So, you know, I missed the text. Okay, we do have a
Sorry.
forum. We're ready to go.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. It is now time for public comment. Lisa, did anyone submit a comment, or would anyone in attendance like to speak?
Didn't have anyone submit a comment. We don't have any Zoom attendees.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda minutes for, the agenda for tonight, March 8th, 2022, the council minutes from February 22nd, 2022, the council minutes from March 1st, 2022's workshop, and we're going to excuse the absence of Councilmember Boyle. Are there any items that the council would like removed from the consent agenda at this time? All right, not seeing any. Is there a motion?
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Great,
Second, Councilmember Williams.
thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right. Votes unanimous, the ayes have it, and the motion is passed. All right, quickly moving on. Next are presentations, and we have some guests here from Blue Zone, and Megan DeBolt will give a presentation.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Hernandez, and thank you for having us today. Can you hear me okay? I'm using my headphones. Okay, good deal. And I think I have permissions to share my screen. So I'm gonna do that, and you're gonna see my screen for a second while I get my computer going. And I also have with us today Emily Brown, our policy advocate, and Catherine DePonte, our organization lead, and they'll each take a slide in this as well. But let me see here. Do you see what you should be saying? Do you feel like there's
Yes,
slide?
we see
Yay!
it.
I love it when that works. Well, thanks for having us back again. It has been a little over a year since I presented to College Place City Council back in, January of 2021. And it feels like it has been just the blink of an eye, but also a lifetime. Because 2021 was a crazy year and a busy year for us and for you all as well. And we just really appreciate being welcomed back and to be able to share some of the work we've been doing. And just really quick recap of Blue Zones Project and the work that we're doing here in the Walla Valley and what it's based upon for anyone who is new listening and new council members. Welcome, TJ. I know, congratulations. But Blue Zones Project is based upon the research of Dan Buettner and a team of National Geographic fellows, and they went to the 5 longevity hotspots of the world at Loma Linda, California, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. And there they really looked to see, what's the secret sauce to these communities and why are they living so much longer than others? And really in those areas, they found that a lot of them had very similar lifestyle characteristics. And we refer to these as the Power 9 lessons for living longer, better, healthier, happier lives. And really the work that we do with Blue Zones Project is all focused around moving naturally, having a positive, right outlook on life and eating wisely and healthy, and having a strong sense of community and belonging. And I would say College Place definitely encompasses so much of this, which is why we've been able to partner with the City of College Place and other partners in College Place area on so many initiatives that Katie and Emily will talk about as we move through our time. But really all the work that we do is focused on where we live, work, play, learn, pray, in what we call the life radius. It's like the 10 miles from around your home where you do a lot of this work. And we focus on policies, that high, 30,000 foot level that we've been having so much fun working with Mike on so many policies, because it's like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds great too. Let's do it. And we love it because we're like, oh shoot, great. Let's move forward. Let's get some fun things done that will improve well-being for College Place residents. And I would say to residents throughout the valley, and really setting the tone for well-being transformation in our community. I'd say College Place really is, because you've been an early adopter. You're really in like a very strong state of readiness for this work, which is exciting. And we've been able to move through our policy work really swiftly. And that's a lot of fun, because we know that policy work is what's going to have that long lasting impact on the community. That's why we focus on policy. It's because it doesn't matter if there's, change in leadership. It doesn't matter if, an organization comes or goes. The policies largely are there to stay unless city council or leadership decides to change them. But that's why we really focus on policy. And Katie will talk about places too, in the organizations that we're working with to create a healthier environment where we frequent our time, including grocery stores and restaurants. And then also we focus on people and working with individuals in the community. And Mayor Hernandez, I want to tell you that I ran into a community member who participated in a purpose workshop last week, and she's in a wheelchair, and she's actually attended a couple of our activities. It's one of the only things that she does outside of the house. And when we were talking afterwards, and she's telling me, she's like, Megan, that Mayor Hernandez, she's an amazing lady. I called, and she had the snowplow come and plow out my driveway so that the dial-a-ride could get into my driveway. And I was like, yep, that's what happens in College Place, which is really amazing. And I will say that doesn't happen everywhere. It doesn't. And so that's really where we focus is the home and the immediate kind of life radius around the home. And so this time last year, actually, it was last February, that we actually implemented, some of you remember, even the city of College Place as a worksite participated in what we called the Real Age Test. And the Real Age Test is the survey tool that we use to conduct our community well-being index to really get that baseline level of health indicators for our community. And so we did this across the 2 zip codes that we're working in. And, not to our surprise, we found that overall well-being in Walla Valley is pretty good, 66.8. In reference, the state of Washington is right around 65, which isn't bad either necessarily, but it also means we know that we have some room for improvement because 100 is the max. And, and technically we do have some room for improvement here, and we'd really like to do that. We noticed that, strengths related, that social and physical well-being were strong areas in Walla and College Place, that we have relatively good compared to a lot of other communities, access to healthcare resources. We have a hospital here in the Valley, and we do have several healthcare providers. Sometimes it can be hard to get into them, especially we know mental health providers and behavioral health providers are hard to get into at times, but we have the services here, but sometimes it is those barriers to access that we need to work through. And that's why we work with like Providence and others to work through those. Blue Zones Project doesn't directly impact that, but we like to work with the Becky Bettses of the world to work on those, and places like the health center and things like that too. And that we do have a relatively high poverty rate, and a high percent of our community who's receiving like supplemental nutrition assistance benefits at SNAP and the food stamp program, and even WIC, that are receiving those. And so knowing that it's important to make sure that we're considerate and inclusive of the vulnerable populations in Walla and College Place, but that we do have relatively high rates of walking and bike commuting, which is wonderful as well. But what we also saw was that there are some risk factors, and I want to just go through these kind of quickly and relate them to Blue Zones Project work that we do. Is that the top risk factors that we found in the Walla Valley, and we didn't separate these out by zip code. This is for Walla and College Place as a whole. Are stress, which I'm sure that doesn't surprise any of you. It didn't surprise me necessarily. I know that we all need to have good stress coping mechanisms, right? Sitting for long periods of time, low rates of exercise using weights, even just light weights even, and also low fruit and vegetable consumption, which sometimes we think about, like, how could that be? We're in this like mecca of agriculture here in Walla in the Walla Valley, but we do still have low fruit and vegetable consumption rates and high BMI, which is the kind of baseline metabolic index. And that's kind of that's an indicator for obesity and type 2 diabetes. Largely is where we monitor BMI at the individual level, but when we look at a community level, we're really seeing that it relates really closely to all 4 of the risk factors that lead to that stress because of high cortisol levels, sitting for long periods of time, low rates of exercise, and low fruit and vegetable consumption. And so anything that we do to improve stress, physical activity, and nutrition will have a positive impact on overall health and BMI. But some of the things that we do with Blue Zones Project to address these, with stress, that's really where we focus on downshifting and connecting with others. The walking MOIs and purpose workshops that we do have a very strong correlation with reducing stress and being able to make new friends and understand the things that you're good at, your gifts, and your reason to wake up in the morning. Sitting for long periods of time and low rates of exercise using weights. That's why we do those walking MOIs, that get people moving. And also with the policy work that we do, and Emily will talk about even some of the activities that are recommended for work sites and schools, are to get people moving more, to make it easy to move more throughout your day, whether that's, standing during meetings or taking walking breaks or having walking groups and things like that. And then, low fruit and vegetable consumption, that's just largely around eating wisely, right? And we promote a largely plant-based diet, but also it's also about, how much you eat too. And so we do, plant-based cooking classes. If anybody's watched those, we have a bunch of them on our website you can go to and watch. And then we also, we do promote having healthy options in the work site, so that you're not encouraged to make unhealthy choices, that the healthy choice is the easy choice. And that's what Blue Zones Project is all about. And then by doing all of that work, we'll hopefully improve overall community BMI over the next few years. It will take time to see that some of that improvement for BMI, honestly. We won't see it overnight, definitely, but we'll be doing the real age test again in the February of 2023. And so it'll be really great to see what kind of improvements we see after we've been, launched as a project for 2 years. Oh, I gotta make sure I can move on. And so where we are at within our project is we're in what's called the transformation phase. And the transformation phase is what I refer to as our get stuff done phase, right? We took, time, our first 6 months, which is when we came and spoke with you last, to really learn about the community focus groups and got a lot of community input, and we did our community well-being measurements, and we built out our coalitions and committees, and we joined a lot of them too, which is always great. And we all got trained, which was fun. We've learned a lot, I would say. I can't see Katie and Emily on my screen right now because it's large, but I bet they're shaking their heads like we've learned a lot this year. And we created our strategic plan, which is our blueprint. And the blueprint is what we use to, for implementation over the next 3 years. And we're just getting ready to end our first year of implementation. Our first year of implementation will be over April 30th, 2022, because we started in May, just before our community kickoff that we had last year in June. And so we're like a year and a half in, and it feels like some days, they're like, oh my gosh, how much more work could we do? But some days it's like, oh my gosh, just all the pieces fall into place, and it makes it really, really exciting to be part of this work and to be working with partners such as City College Place. And like I said before, within the Life Radius, we work in these 3 different areas: policy, places, and people. And these are just some photos of the things that we've been doing here that Emily and Katie will talk a little bit more about specifically within the City of College Place. But we've done some walking assessments, and you'll see down here the 4 Bikes demonstration project, which is now becoming a permanent installation over there with the cycle track along 4th Street. Right. Oh gosh. Okay, good. What was that, Mike?
Yes.
Was I right?
4th Street.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Keeping me true. I like it. We're doing tobacco policy work and also food policy work with different local farms and coalitions and schools. We've got to be involved with a lot of organizations that Katie will talk about more. And the people work that we've been doing, that's largely like our volunteer activities, our walking MOIs, our purpose workshops, and just really getting to know our community members more and more, which is really fun, and working with community organizing groups too, which has been a lot of fun. And we've learned so much. Like I said before, we've learned a lot through this process, things that I have been here for a while, and the community is, and when I was at public health, and I thought, shoot, like I get this, and it's amazing. Every kind of corner we turn, we learn something new, and that's pretty exciting. There's a lot of hidden gems here within Walla and College Place. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Katie to talk about Places work in College Place. And I'm going to mute myself, and Katie, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Well, this is a pretty exciting day or evening because this is actually the first time we're making, or at least we get to make a presentation like this to a public group where we actually get to tell you about the things that have been accomplished already, as opposed to just the work that we're going to do. So there's still a lot of work left to be done, in the next 2.5 or so years, but I just feel really excited to be able to share with you all the work that College Place has already done as a community. And I could not echo more Megan's sentiments just about what a pleasure it has been to work with, in my case, so many places and people associated with those places throughout College Place. The number of times that myself and our team, we have stood in a parking lot after a meeting with, whether it be with the city or the school district or a restaurant, and said, gosh, wasn't that great? Oh my gosh, that was so great. How awesome was that person? Or I'm so excited about the collaboration that we can do. And it's so invigorating. And we are so appreciative of the positive reception and support that we've received from the City of College Place at large. So to start with schools, so as you can see on the slide there, when we talk about places and that life radius, we're talking about schools and mainly in regards to impacting students, at their schools, work sites, so large employers throughout the valley and really impacting adults in that particular case. Restaurants, of course, somewhat affecting employees of those restaurants, but really thinking about customers, patrons, and then grocery stores, of course, thinking about patrons as well. So with regards to schools, very excited that actually our first approved certified school is going to be College Place High School, which is really exciting. They have done a tremendous amount of work as a community to improve and enhance the environment and programs there. We're back to make it a little bit easier for students to make healthy choices, for certainly for staff and teachers as well. And we've also begun the process of working with the district at large as a work site as well. So they're working towards becoming an approved Blue Zone Project approved work site in year 2. Which is really exciting. So some of the things that the school has done, they've formed a fantastic Healthy Hawks committee, which is made up of teachers and staff and students who are gathering monthly to talk about issues of well-being, mental health services, things that they can offer both to certainly to students and also to staff and teachers. I got to have a pretty extensive tour of the kitchen facility and lunchroom set up yesterday. I've been there many times, but got to go through and document all the incredible work that Colleen Nelson and her team and Brianne Del Castillo are doing throughout the nutrition program at the high school and middle school. And then certainly it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Robert Aguilar, the principal there, as well as Jim Fry, the superintendent. So lots of exciting things happening there. We're also working with Rogers Adventist Academy, K through 8, to help them become a Blue Zone Project approved school. They're already doing a lot to support the well-being and health of their students as well. And then looking at work sites. So this is a place where we really focus on large employers. That's where we're able to make our greatest impact, and doing things both to the physical environment, such as offering downshifting spaces and ergonomic checklists to make sure that workstations are safe for employees, leadership programs, social connections, all sorts of different programming. Currently, we're working with the City of College Place and Walla University, and they are both on track to become approved work sites in year 1, which is also really exciting. A huge shout out to Sean and Desiree and the Wellness Committee at the City of College Place, who've done just a ton of work towards this goal. I just got an email yesterday about, well over half of the employees at the city did an ergonomic checklist to see if their stations need any enhancements and whatnot so they could be safer. This is really crucial for healthcare claims down the road for large work sites. And being able to offer those facilities for their employees. And then something also that work sites have done is sent out letters to local restaurants, letting them know, hey, we're embarking on this process to become an approved work site. We encourage you to get involved. We encourage you to be a part of this community initiative to help our community be a little bit healthier and live longer. And so some of the restaurants you see there on the screen receive those letters. And it's always fun to go to those restaurants and talk with them about the Blue Zone process and hear, oh yeah, I got a letter from Mike Rosatello. Oh, I got a letter from the president of Walla University. And Rogers Bakery is one of those restaurants that we've been been working with most recently. They're working towards becoming an approved restaurant in the coming months. You may have seen on social media, they just installed a new bike rack outside of their restaurant just this weekend. That's part of the restaurant pledge process where they're working towards becoming an approved restaurant and trying to just encourage their customers to, maybe bike or walk to the bakery to have a, hopefully a healthy option, maybe a donut, it's all about moderation, right? So, and then last but not least, certainly grocery stores are a crucial place. People always say, well, grocery stores, they're already pretty healthy, right? Everything's in there. All the healthy food is inside those grocery stores, which is absolutely true, but oftentimes it can be hard to find. And so the work that really happens with grocery stores is helping customers find those resources, knowing about the incredible work that's being done, doing food sampling and specials and cooking demonstrations and giving healthy recipes so that customers can make some great choices. And certainly Andy's Market has been a tremendous supporter, and we're excited to work with them. So that's just a sampling, but I will just echo that, gosh, it has just been such a pleasure to work with everyone thus far associated with the city. And we just continue to be excited to meet more folks and make an impact at the places we go the most often. So I'm going to hand it back to Megan, I think, to talk about people engagement.
Thanks, Katie. Yes, so we have done a lot of activities and events in College Place, and it's been a lot of fun. I would say that we get a lot of engagement from College Place because it seems like it's just natural, right? And you guys are set up to kind of be this Blue Zones hub in a sense, especially over there at Lions Park, where we did our kickoff event for College Place that ended up actually being our kickoff event pretty much for the whole project because we had to cancel the previous night in Walla due to the wind. And you see the picture here, the huge screen. I don't know how many of you came. I know Mayor Hernandez was there. To do a welcome to everyone, to really get us going. And I'll say it was the right kickoff that we needed for College Place. And it was a lot of fun. We had a ton of people there. And then we were able to follow that up with a series of kind of igniting, engaging events that focus on the different areas that the Blue Zones Project does with, eating healthy and things like that. And this is actually me here making a smoothie at one of the farmers markets that
We may have lost Megan for a moment, but I'll pick up where she left off. So she was saying the farmers markets that I think Lisa put on was what she was going to say. But we had such a great time, and we're really excited to be a part of the farmers markets and the movie nights this summer, and have an even greater presence and be able to provide those opportunities and kind of spread some information about plant-based cooking, invite some great chefs, and see more of the community. So Megan, do you want to go to the next slide perhaps? Perfect. Great. And I'm going to hand it off to Emily to talk about policy.
Excellent. And I will run through this pretty quickly because I know we're kind of running short on time here, but we have had a lot of fun working on built environment policy. Mike, as you may know, has amazing ideas. So we did the 4 Bikes demonstration project. That was super fun. We helped the city complete their local road safety plan, currently working on an ADA transition plan for the city. And we're, as Katie mentioned, going to be supporting some safe routes to school work with Davis, which will be really fun. And then the other policy areas, so food. So we're supporting Enactus Community Garden in expanding and bringing volunteers in to add some capacity there, extra capacity. And kudos to Lisa and Sherry, right? Yes, for updating the farmers market application. So if you read there, they're encouraging vendors to offer healthy options. And then similarly for trunk or treat, we came up with a list of healthy alternatives to candy that can be offered. So not requiring, but just encouraging people to think about adding healthier options in. And then with policy, with tobacco policy, so we partnered with Lisa to make this fun sign for city events, like in the park and stuff that can encourage people, remember this is a smoke-free event, kind of using this really fun design We've partnered with the schools to update signage that says no vaping, just to remind people, and adding signage in the parking lot. And then also partnered with the city and the PAR board to add new signs for all of the city parks. Just reminding people again, please no smoking or vaping. And so one of the attachments for the meeting today is a proposed ordinance that would require city permitted events to be tobacco, vape, and nicotine free. We would encourage you to consider this. I also included a one-pager that kind of has some of the stats, but realistically, most of the events that the city permits are already required to be tobacco free. They occur in parks, they occur on school campuses. And so this would largely be symbolic, but it could have huge impact on the health of people in reducing exposure to secondhand smoke, reducing litter as far as cigarette butts found in the parks or other places. And so that's there. And there is one comment, there's still one question, we'll work with Rhea to get that finalized for you all, but I'm here, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And then let's see, I think then the next slide, we also have another resolution that I think Mike is going to talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. And we have those two resolutions for you today to consider. And I think one is to be approved today. Mike, I'm going to look to you for clarification. I'm going to stop sharing my screen as well. And sorry, my headphones got hijacked by something, I think, and that was pretty fascinating. I have to have a conversation with my daughter after this. But to look at the resolution, it is I think it's the overall resolution maybe tonight, Mike, right? And then doing the tobacco specific
So
one
the
next.
general plan is that with resolutions of support or proclamations of support, those historically council has taken action on as they've been presented, but on ones where there's more so of a policy or ordinance nexus, those usually get introduced the first time and then for action at a subsequent council meeting. So under the presentations tab, as Emily alluded to, you will see a draft ordinance having to do with smoking and vaping and so on and so forth at city permitted events. Keep in mind that already smoking isn't allowed at city park facilities. That has been long standing within our city park code. So Rhea is working with the Blue Zone staff just on a question having to do with said ordinance, but you can see the bones of it there attached to this item in the council packet. So please review it. If you have questions, let us know now or let us know in the next 2 weeks before this comes back as an action item. But the general other resolution, which is just supporting the work in the initiative, that is for consideration tonight, is the first action item, that other resolution.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike. And if anybody has any questions about this kind of general broad resolution that is supporting the project and initiative as a whole, we'd welcome them and ask, but really it is overall supporting, promoting community well-being at a very high level, but also very grassroots. It supports the policy work, but also our places work with the work sites and schools and grocery stores and restaurants. And it really encourages individuals within the community to get involved, which is exactly what we're looking to do. And we appreciate the City of College Place's support in doing that as well.
Well, thank you, Megan. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the Blue Zone staff before we let them go away for the evening? No? All right. Well, thank you so very much. If you want to hang on for just a little bit to watch the first action item, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you have a good night. Thank you so much. It's great seeing you all again. All right, so we do have, the next item is public hearings, which we do not have any scheduled for tonight. So then we're going to move on to our action items. And the first one is the Blue Zones Project Resolution of Support for Healthy Communities. And Mike is going to present on that.
Yeah, certainly. So with this resolution of support, it was furnished essentially by Blue Zones. And it's just indicating that you're supporting the work that has been going on and will go on so we're basically 1 year into the initial 3-year plan. And you can see the various appendices as far as things to be working towards as we progress along this work plan. And then also attached, which I believe has been mentioned at a past council meeting, but for new council members, I think it's important. There was a blueprint document that basically spells out the marching orders for this initiative that was put forth back in the early summer of last year. So you can get a feel for what is going on and what will be going on by reading that blueprint document. But yeah, before you is just a resolution of support for what has been going on and what will be going on the next couple of years.
All right, great. Thank you. Let's go through council members for questions or comments, and we'll begin with Mr. Jessup.
No questions, but I just want to say thank you. I've been involved in like the summer program you guys did last year with my family. I know we're trying to still work on getting some purpose workshops for some of our seniors here at College Place, and I've talked to Mr. Aguilar. I just wanted to say thank you for this hard work, and honestly, we have a lot of things coming up as well that we're going to connect with you about. And just want to say thank you for being open and get this initiative and action items to support the community.
Great. Mr. Cleveland.
No questions.
Mr. Peterson.
Oh, that's a great presentation. You know, I fully support this. It's been a challenging year, you know, with COVID and whatnot, with the pandemic, and it's the progress that has been made during this difficult time has been amazing. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Espinosa.
Yeah, I just would like to echo, I think it's wonderful that these very amazing initiatives are coming to our town. I think they're very broad goals. And I have a question around the objectives impacting College Place, looking over the file that you sent. And I just wanted to ask if they overlap with some of the other committees and activities that we already have planned, or if these are standalone initiatives that will not have an impact on current projects that we're working on.
I could answer that. I mean, I feel there is overlap because there's folks involved in various subcommittees and initiatives of Blue Zones that are on our advisory boards and vice versa. So I mean, like the 4 Bikes project, that was an initiative that originally came out of Economic Development Commission and the Utilities Commission. Really, and then Lions Park, same thing, except through there it was with the Park and Recreation Board. So I would say there's really cross-pollination between what Blue Zones is doing in concert with what we're doing.
Great. So in a sense, this would be like, it would be enhancing what's already happening within, you know, what a lot of committees are working on. Blue Zones comes to provide that additional layer of support and just enhance the projects that would impact the community.
Yes, and I mean, I'll give you a good example. So for instance, when we conceived the Lions Park project, we were looking big picture at it, and those I mean, you know this because you were on the park board, but getting the RCO grants and the Sherwood Trust grant for the larger items like splash pad and the walking paths. However, in doing that, there were some minor items I would say that were omitted because we were focusing on the big picture. So like hydration stations, bike racks, for example, also the need for electrical and like a gazebo out there, because farmers market, we do get entertainment out there. It would make more sense to put a semi-permanent structure up there. So Blue Zones, they've been helping us write smaller foundation grants to achieve those smaller ticket items that were left out of the larger grants that we received for the various elements of Lions Park. So that's just one example.
Excellent. Well, thank you, ladies, for spearheading this project. I think is going to add a lot of value to our community. I think it's wonderful.
Ms. Williams.
No comments or questions other than thank you.
Ms. Sherman.
No questions. I'm glad you guys are here.
All right. All right. So do we have a motion on this proposal, on this resolution?
This is Councilmember Williams. I would move to adopt resolution number 22-018, which supports the Blue Zones project, Walla Walla Valley.
I'll second.
Great. We have a first and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All right. Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. It's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you again, ladies. Have a good night.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next agenda. It's the Southeast Tamarson Road Speed Study. And Mr. Rizzatello will continue presenting.
Thank you. And I will be turning this over to Jenna Bogert with DKS Associates. So you all understand the history behind this. A while back, City of Walla and Walla County were investigating about doing a speed study for the Tamarson Prospect Risa Road corridor, because even though it's only a couple of miles in length, the speed limits go all over the place. It's a smorgasbord. And then they asked us to join in, and we did. So what's attached is essentially the study. This was introduced at the last workshop, and with that, I mean, the general summation of it was they have a uniform speed limit, but with that, I will turn it over to Jenna.
Great, thanks, Mike. I'm going to share my screen if that's all right. Right. So hopefully you can see that slide deck. But so yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council members, for having me tonight. I'm Jenna Bogert, and I'm a transportation engineer with DKS Associates. And really tonight, I just want to go over a kind of an overview of this speed zone study that was conducted and present the recommended speed limits on Tamarson Road, Prospect Road, and Reeser Road, and really answer any questions you guys have about the study. First, I'll kind of go over the coordination and discussion that's happened between the agencies to date. Like Mike said, the City of Walla Walla, City of College Place, and the Walla Walla County staff were pretty involved in the study, which we wrapped up at the end of October of last year. And in November, we started the process of presenting to the various boards and councils the recommended speed limits to get some feedback and support from them. So we came to the City of College Place, UTAC, in mid-November, and they were supportive of the recommendation, as you probably know. Following that, we went to the County Board of Commissioners, and they had a lot of questions about pedestrian data, but ultimately they wanted us to circle back to them after talking to the two cities. So we moved on to the City of Walla Walla just last month, where the speed limit recommendations were presented to City Council, and they were also supportive of the recommendation. including their chief of police, who was also in attendance at that meeting. And then tonight, again, just here to answer questions and give a little bit of a summary of the process that we went through to determine the speed limits recommendations. And then next week, we will circle back with the Board of County Commissioners as they requested and give them an update on what happens here tonight and what happened at the city of Walla Walla last month. So lots of communication, which is great. So the next few slides will just give a brief summary of the project. Like Mike said, it's a 4.4 mile corridor of Reeser Road, Prospect Road, Avenue, and Tamarson Road. The jurisdiction varies along the corridor, as do the existing speed limits. In that image, you can see there's 25 mile/hour speed limit on the west end in College Place near SR 125. It jumps up to 35 once it hits county jurisdiction. It drops down to 30, jumps back up to 35 at Plaza Way. And then you also have a 20 mile/hour school speed zone in front of the elementary school and the high school, Walla Walla High School there, between Cottonwood and Fern Avenue. So yeah, definitely lots of inconsistency, and really the goal of this project is to conduct a speed limit study and hopefully identify some speed limits that are consistent and really improve driver expectations along this corridor. So we did that by utilizing the speed limit setting tool, which is a recently developed tool through national research. It really aims to provide consistent speed limit suggestions and speed limits that also would minimize crashes and improve safety along the corridor. And so we took this 4.4 mile corridor and we broke it up into 6 segments based on similar characteristics, and collected vehicle data at multiple locations along the corridor. So 50th and 85th percentile speeds, 24-hour volume data, vehicle classification data. We also did existing inventory of pedestrian facilities, bike facilities, number of driveways, traffic control, a lot of data inputs. And we took all of that information and input them into the speed limit setting tool. And really the tool puts out a suggested speed limit for each of those segments. And DKS's job there is then to take that suggested speed limit for each of those segments and use our judgment and our expertise to make a recommendation. And so that recommendation was for a 35 mile/hour speed limit along the entire corridor, except for the portion in front of the elementary school and high school in Walla Walla, where we recommend a 30 mile/hour speed limit. And that's really just due to the higher level of bike activity, pedestrian activity, on-street parking that happens in that area. And so these were also the speed limits that were presented to the city of Walla Walla and the College Place UTAC, which they were in support of. Lastly, I'll just cover the Tamarson road curve. I know there was some discussion about it last week and some questions, so I just wanted to share some information about that. Currently, this section of road is 25 miles/hour, and we are recommending a 35 mile/hour speed limit on this section. But I do want to note that the recommendation would come with the inclusion that an evaluation would be conducted on that curve to determine the need for any additional advisory speed signage there, such as the yellow signs there on the left side of the slide with the 25 in the right arrow. So signage like that might be determined to be needed at the curve, entering the curve from either direction. And we would just make sure that that happens as part of the implementation for the 35 mile/hour speed on this segment. You can see in that image there at the bottom that you actually have half of that sign set up. So, that would just be, again, something we would look into. It would be part of the implementation plan that would get evaluated. So yeah, that concludes my very brief presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. We're going to go through council members for any questions or comments. Beginning with Mr. Jessup.
Not at the moment. Thank you for the presentation.
Mr. Cleveland,
No questions, thanks.
Mr. Peterson,
Well, thank you very much. I think many times we look at these issues and we have personal considerations or opinions or whatnot. It's nice to hear of the in-depth study and analysis and other city governments and whatnot that have looked at this. And it supports, I think, our position on this. But that's nice to get a broad spectrum of opinions on this. Thank you.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
I don't have any questions. I do have one comment. It was noted in the report that the City of College Place doesn't have any specific speed policy. And we had talked about this a couple years ago in one of our meetings, and there is a state requirement that sets what the requirements are, and says that we have to have a speed study by an engineer before we set speed limits. So we pretty much rely on that. So just FYI, I guess.
No, Ms. Sherman?
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, is there any additional discussion? Right, seeing none, do we have a motion on this resolution?
I move to adopt resolution number 22-019, which directs staff to adjust the speed limit on Morrison Road within the city limits from 25 to 35 miles per hour based on the findings of the DKS speed study.
Second, Councilmember Peterson.
Great, thank you. We have a first and a second. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Ms. Boger. Really appreciate you being here and presenting to us. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you as well. Okay, next item is the resolution approving the award of a CDBG engineering contract with Anderson Perry Engineers, and Mr. Rizzatello is still presenting.
Okay, thank you. So as you all know, there's two census block groups that in essence qualify as low moderate income, where we can get state community development block grant dollars to do projects such as this, and their block groups 9202.2 and 3. Since the state has accepted that theory, because typically it's either a city qualifies or it doesn't, but you can use the census block group theory to essentially get stuff approved. They've accepted that. So the general theory is that over time, we are going to them to try to obtain grant money for engineering and construction of sidewalks, since that has been a prevalent concern that's been identified in the comprehensive plan, strategic plan, a variety of almost any other document, even that local road safety plan, saying that we need the sidewalks in the core of the community. So the previous CDBG contract paid for sidewalks on Bay, Davis, and then 12th. This iteration is for engineering to do the sidewalks on the north side of 6th from College Avenue over to Davis, and then 8th from Bade to College. So that's what you see in front of you. We did competitive bidding. We advertised it via RSQ. We received one submittal from Anderson Perry for this project to do the engineering for those segments. I'm seeking approval to get a contract with them so we can get engineering going. So hopefully later this year and next year, we can build some sidewalk and then also position ourselves for the next round of CDBG grants to do additional sidewalk.
All right, thank you, Mike. Mr. Jessup, any questions or comments?
At the moment, thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
Just really like the idea, and glad that we are in a position to make it happen. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Williams,
No questions. I'm really happy to see this going forward.
and Ms. Sherman.
No questions, thank you.
All right, if there's no additional discussion, do we have a motion on this resolution?
I'll motion to adopt resolution number 22-020, which authorizes the city administrator to sign a contract with Anderson Perry Engineering for sidewalk engineering on 6th and 8th Streets in an amount not to exceed $90,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Councilmember Jessup.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. More sidewalks is always a great thing. Next is the creation of a Walla Walla Valley Creative District. Mr. Rizzatello?
Okay. Thank you. So with this item, I introduced this at the last council workshop. Basically, this is an initiative from Arts Washington, where if you're able to obtain this designation, it opens up some money for arts operations, but then also some capital grant money as well. We have engaged in conversations with Art Walla, City of Walla Walla, the Downtown Walla Walla Foundation about turning in a joint application, because otherwise it would make it very weird to turn in singular ones when Art Walla is really operating in both communities. So therefore, we've been working to do a joint one now. As I've said before, the joint application, that hasn't really been done at the state level before because this is relatively new. It was only created a couple of years ago, and there's only about 11 of these across the state. We're going to see how it works basically and go from there. Now on the City of Walla Walla side, their Arts Commission has already approved going forward on this. I know it's getting teed up to go through their city council now. And then on our side, while we don't have an arts commission, the park boards actually, they basically per their code deal in the public art realm on behalf of the city. So they've also approved recommending to council to essentially go forward on this. And yeah, we just need to get the letter of inquiry to Arts Washington because then there's a formal process to get accepted. And we need to do it this year because keep in mind that the next biennium on the state level is that all budget stuff gets figured out next spring. So it's key for us to get accepted into this program this year, because otherwise if we don't, we'll miss the boat for the next biennium, and then they'll cause budgetary ramifications for grants. So with that, seeking approval to go submit this thing with Art Walla and City of Walla, Walla and other partners to do a Valley Creative District between the two communities. Questions?
All right, Mr. Jessup?
Sorry, it took me a minute. No questions at the moment. Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions. I'm
Mr.
glad that we're looking in to ways to beautify the city.
Yes. Mr. Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions. It's just a comment. I think this will enhance our city, the image of our city. We have 3 universities and 3 colleges. So this would be a really great thing for our community and our city if move forward.
Ms. Williams?
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions, thank you.
All right, if there's no additional discussion, do we have a motion on this resolution?
This is
No.
Councilmember Williams. I would like to move to adopt resolution number 22-021, which permits the city administrator to submit a joint application on Walla Walla Valley Creative District with Art Walla Walla, City of Walla Walla, and other partners.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilmember.
Cleveland.
Go ahead.
I'll second Councilmember Cleveland.
All right, is there any additional discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next is the resolution to authorize the 2022 SEEK grant subcontractors. Mr. Rizzatello?
Okay, thank you. So for this one, I mentioned that this was going to be coming forward to you all the next business meeting. So keep in mind the previous business meeting, you all adopted the resolution which allowed us to accept the SEEK grant. And please remember, it's the grant program that's going to cover the fairly significant youth program expansion this summer, with College Place Public Schools for $134,000, Campfire for $50,000, and then Sunbridge for $32,375. We had to very quickly turn around and do 3 subcontracts. So basically what this resolution is allowing is allowing for essentially us to do subcontracts and get them out with College Place Public Schools, Campfire, and Sunbridge, so we can get these programs going on track and get them ready for by the time summer comes. Questions?
All right. Any questions, Mr. Jessup?
No, thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions, thank you.
Mike, you asked for speed. They're speeding along. Is there any additional discussion? All right, do we have a motion?
Councilmember Peterson, a motion to adopt resolution number 22-022, which authorizes the city administrator to sign the proposed subcontracts for SEEK grant-funded youth recreation programs with College Place Public Schools, Sunbridge, and Walla Walla Campfire.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, Mike, go forward with that.
Okay,
Next.
thank you.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the resolution to accepting a grant from the State of Washington Department of Commerce for the solar program.
Okay, thank you. So this one is basically the third of the 3-legged stool that's propping up the solar array project over by the East Side Booster Tanks on Whitman and Maple. So you've all accepted the grant agreement for TransAlta, and then a long time ago you accepted the one for Blue Sky. This one is the final one for $175,000 from the State of Washington Department of Commerce. In this one, of all grants that were turned in, and there's about like 38 of them, we were ranked number 1 on this. So just accepting this, so we have $175,000, and with all 3 of them, that comprises the totality of the construction cost on this.
All right, moving this along. So Mr. Jessup, questions or comments?
No current questions or comments, but thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions, but I'm happy it's moving forward.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions, but congratulations, Mike, for getting this package put together.
Thanks.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions, thanks.
All right, if there's no additional discussion, is there a motion for this resolution?
This is Councilmember Jessup. I will motion to adopt resolution number 22023, which authorizes acceptance of State of Washington Department of Commerce solar grant in the amount of $175,000 for construction of solar array and allows city administrator to sign grant documents.
Second, Councilmember Cleveland.
All right, any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Mike, yes, congratulations. You've been working quite some time on that, so thank you.
Yep.
All right, next is the interlocal agreement with Walla Walla County for certified acceptance service on the Southwest Majornia Road project.
Okay, thank you. So as you all know, we end up getting Walla Walla Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization Surface Transportation Grant Funds to pay for the engineering to reconstruct Southwest Majornia from College Avenue to Blueview Lane. That is key because that butts are basically future development area, and as such, you'll have urban level traffic going on Southwest Majornia. I mean, you already do since it goes pretty far west, since it links up with Frog Hollow Road. The thing is, when you accept funds like this, you have to have what's called a certified acceptance agency, where they basically audit you and make sure things are going good. And agencies can get certified in this depending upon the thresholds of federal grant money you get from the transportation nexus. We don't get enough money where we could certify on our own accord to get that certified acceptance designation. So we have partnered with another agency that does. So Walla Walla County is a certified acceptance agency. So this resolution needs to be passed where it's authorizing an interlocal agreement, so that way they could serve as that for us. And then now, once we have this in place, we're able to turn in this as well as scope of work, everything else to State Department of Transportation. And then they will give us the green light to put this thing out for RSQ, so we can get an engineer on board to design this thing, and then also do some right-of-way acquisition. It's going to need to occur throughout that corridor. So this is the first of many steps to get this project underway.
All right, thank you, Mike. Let's go through council members. Mr. Jessup, questions or comments?
Not at the moment. Thank you again.
Mr. Cleveland,
No questions.
Mr. Peterson,
No, thank you, Mike.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Ms. Williams,
No questions.
Ms. Sherman,
I have a few questions. I'm just kidding. I don't have any. Just wanted to see if Mike was paying attention.
you are shaking it up a bit tonight.
Let's see what I could do.
All right, if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion on this resolution for Mike?
This is Councilmember Williams. I move to adopt resolution number 22-024, which permits the mayor to sign interlocal agreement with Walla Walla County for certified acceptance services pertaining to Southwest Majornia Road project.
Do we have a second?
Second, Councilmember Peterson.
All right, thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is resolution for support for the College Place School District pursuant of a state recreation conservation office grant.
Okay, thank you. So with this concept is, as you all may know, once that development occurs to west of College Avenue, which that is going to be coming through the pipe very soon, because although it's related, just so you're all aware, we finally did secure the east-west right-of-way to actually get across over Craig Christensen's property and get the east-west road going. So that's some exciting news. So that's really going to get the housing part of the coin going. We thank Mr. McKiernan for getting that to us. But another important part of this development is going to be park property. So think about it. Craig Christensen's property is 200 acres of homes. So that is going to trigger new park. And also keep in mind, as part of that neighborhood, you do have the property school district bought for the new school. So the general concept here is with the American Rescue Plan Act money, Recreation Conservation Office got another iteration of grant funds where they're doing another call for projects, because typically you'd have to wait another biennium for the Youth Athletic Fund, the Land Water Conservation Fund, and then also the Washington Wildlife Recreation Program Fund. And the issue is that since we have grant awards open for Lions Park, because we're in the process of final engineering for that, if we turned in the grant applications, it would not get scored that well, because we have open grant agreements in all three of those grant areas. However, College Place Public Schools has not put such grants in through RCO for a very, very long time. So in talking with Superintendent Fry, we decided that basically College Place Public Schools would be putting in some money for planning, engineering, and then development for a new park out there, basically on the site of whatever that new school is. And then essentially it would also help feed the neighborhood, since it's going to trigger a park requirement anyhow. So since they are the ones that would be submitting it, basically this resolution of support, think of it like a letter of support, except from the city. And the College Place Public Schools, they would essentially act as the lead on this to get the grant funds, but it's a good way to augment this, so that way we actually get more grant money. Otherwise, we would have to wait till Lions Park closes out if we were to do it to score really high, and that'll put us out a couple of years by the time you get the park built, and then all the closeout activities associated. We would be out sometime on this if we acted as the lead. So this is a good way to try to get some more grant money up in here. And just put in perspective, if they were as lucky as we were at getting the Lions Park money, they've since adjusted the grant caps. So I mean, hypothetically, we could get up to $3 million for a new park doing this through the school district.
All right. Mr. Jessup?
No current questions or comments. Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
Head spinning a little bit with that last conversation, but thank you, Mike. No questions.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
I don't have any questions, except I think that we should call it Rizzatello Park.
Don't you mean Saint Rizzatello Park?
Oh, it gets even better. I think you're going to make his mama proud. Ms. Sherman?
No questions, thanks.
All right. If there's no additional discussion, do we have a motion for this resolution?
Councilmember Jessup, I'll motion to approve the resolution number 22025, which supports College Place Public Schools submitting State of Washington Recreation Conservation Office grant applications for future park facility adjacent to future new school.
Is there a second?
Councilmember Williams, second.
All right. If there's no additional discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right. The ayes have it. The motion is passed. It would be wonderful to have a park over there. Okay, next item is a federal fiscal year 2022 State Homeland Security Grant Program. And Mike, I hope you took your vitamins before coming to the meeting.
Thank you. So, received an email a couple weeks ago from County Emergency Management where Homeland Security was doling out grant dollars toward hardening municipal assets or cybersecurity projects or the like. So in looking at the various requirements, there were a couple of projects that look like it would fit in here fairly good. So a couple of them is the electrical generator project for City Hall. Also the server room project, which that's going to get dealt with when we remodel the jail cells next year, because that's going to be a very intensive project. And then the public works yard remodel, which was a year or two out, but again, that's hardly been touched at all from a security or a renovation perspective for a number of years. So this fits in well. Those three projects are in the adopted 6-year capital facility equipment replacement and information technology plans. So this is resolution of support. If we do get this, if we get the total request, it would be $900,000 through federal Homeland Security.
Nice. Mr. Jessup?
No current questions or comments. Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions. Thanks.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
All right, so there's no further discussion. Do we have a motion on this resolution?
Councilmember Espinosa, I move to approve resolution number 22-026, which authorizes and supports submittal of projects into sub-application for Walla Walla County Region 8 Homeland Security Grant Program.
Great, we have a second.
Councilmember Williams, second.
All right, any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, let's see. Oh, Mike's not done yet because we're moving on to administrative reports, and the community grant program is first on our list.
Okay, thank you. So this is just something for you to ponder for the next council meeting. But if you recall a couple of years back, and this was borrowing upon a successful effort at City of Ellensburg, Washington, is basically to encourage neighborhood outreach and then also innovative thinking. They do put out a discretionary grant program where community organizations or organizations in general to help out the community, they can essentially put in an application for a project that would essentially help out the community. And this was created as part of the fiscal year 2020 budget back in 2019. Back then, because of the whole COVID-19 crisis, the $5,000 for the year 2020 that was awarded with the money that the county and the port and the city gave over to Providence St. Mary's for the Cepheid machine. So the first iteration of this grant program went to Cepheid machine to help with the quick test and the COVID test. 2021, we didn't do this program because it was, again, a tight budget year because dealing with COVID fallout. But then we had room to reinstitute it for this year, and it was in a budget you all adopted back in December. We did receive 4 applications. The total amount of money, while it wasn't significant, it wasn't a lot of money, but at least it was something, to dedicate toward this effort was $5,000. We received 4 applications. So Blue Mountain Action Council, Walla University and their Enactus program, which runs the community garden behind the fire station, Walla Valley Academy, and then also the Center for Humanitarian Engagement, tied with the university. Now, when we developed the grant applications a couple of years back, what was in there was the fact that the Economic Development Commission and then the Park Harbor and Recreation Board, that they would essentially grade proposals and then try to come up with a way of divvying up the money to recommend to you all. So of the folks that spent the time to evaluate the proposals, if you click on that totals PDF document, you'll see essentially the various scores. So there is one application did score higher than the other 3, which is the BMAC proposal. And then the others are basically around the same percentile, up or down minus a couple points, but still. So with that, and this has been talked about the Park Harbor and Rec Board meeting and then the Economic Development Commission, but what they felt was appropriate to award is as follows. Blue Mountain Action Council, $2,500. Walla University Enactus, $1,000. Walla Valley Academy for their project, $1,000. And then the Walla University Center for Humanitarian Engagement, $500. And you can see various applications as well as their match money and so forth attached to this agenda packet. But this is something for you all to consider, because we have in the application that after they're due, basically, hopefully we would get awards out like around 60 days afterwards. So that would put it out basically by the end of March. So next meeting, it'd be great if we could have an action on this. But yeah, these are the recommended award levels that was developed by the 2 bodies.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go through council members. Mr. Jessup, questions or comments regarding the applications or the program?
Not at the moment, but thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions, but I just want to say I appreciate how we've formalized kind of the system for people to try to request some funds. Just looks like it's working well. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
Did that not come through? No question.
No, okay. Ms. Sherman?
No questions, thank you.
All right. And that's the end of the administrative reports. We do not have any informational reports, nor do we have an executive session. So we are down to the closing items. Is there any other business for good of the order? Mr. Cleveland?
I'm a little hesitant to bring this up, but a thought I had related to the ambulance utility with regard to billing was that some of the council members and myself included were a little concerned about some of the outliers, especially with regard to the university. And I was just thinking, why don't we just implement a cap? Like we say the monthly billing amount can't exceed $500. That's would be $6,000 for the total year, which is, you know, far throw away from what the original, say, 30,000 or 30-some thousand was for Walla University. And then the rate could be recalculated for those that hit the cap. So, you know, we would be kind of getting the best of both worlds there of, you know, we're essentially saying what we feel is a reasonable cap. And then for the remainder, the other folks that haven't hit that cap, the rate is recalculated. So it's still kind of based on the equivalent dwelling units. But just a thought to consider. Aren't trying to stir up any fires or anything, but that I chair.
Mr. Peterson.
Oh, yeah, it's a great idea. I think the next step on this, if I understood correctly from our last conversation on this, is that we're going to look at residential square footage for the college, perhaps where the students are actually sleeping. Maybe even some consideration of dining halls or whatnot, and come back and do a recalculated amount and look at what that is. Yeah. And so hopefully we can put this to rest and move on and reach a decision on this and alleviate the stress that the fire and ambulance is currently experiencing with the shortage of staff. But I believe that was the next step, was that we're going to come back with a recalculated square footage and see what that looks like.
And this is Ree. I can speak to that. I've been working with Brian on this, finance director called Carlton, and we're going to have I believe it might correct me if I'm wrong, but at the first April meeting,
Workshop, yeah.
A workshop. We're going back to the workshop, and so
Yeah.
we'll have quite a few different breakdowns of what we can do legally and some options for everyone. But if you have particular ideas or thoughts, like Councilmember Cleveland, feel free to email me directly. Don't email everyone, but email me directly with your thoughts, because Brian and Mike and I are working on all that to give you guys some good options so you can make an intelligent, careful decision.
Mr. Peterson, and then Mr. Jessup.
I think we're really close to this thing. I really, really don't want to go through another presentation where we look at all the options for the fourth or fifth time.
No.
This is gonna that's not going to be workable. So I think we're really close to consensus here, and hopefully we get this thing figured out. Thank you.
Mr. Jessup.
If I understand correctly, I'm sorry, I don't have it quite on hand, but am I correct that in April is also the public hearing that we've promoted and put out there? Or is that this April?
Yeah, yes, that would be the business meeting following the workshop. And then I get back to the other comment. Yeah, all of the other options, that's not good. None of that other stuff's getting presented again. This one is going to be dealing with just that residential square footage thing. And then also, I wrote down the notes about what Councilmember Cleveland just wrote as well, and see what that yields. But it'll be this newer stuff that's been suggested.
All right. Mr. Espinosa, I thought I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I had it out briefly. I missed the last meeting where the group discussed this at length, but I had a meeting with Mike and just recapping. In my head, I was trying to look for the most equitable way in which we can fairly distribute the cost to all incumbents. And so I was in conversation with Mike about looking at a model that considers a couple of variables. One would be the square footage, but the other one would be the utilization. Because you might have the largest square footage, but if the utilization isn't there, I think the business case against charging more to institutions with larger square footage that don't utilize the service as much is important. And there are other facilities such as nursing homes that utilize the service quite a bit. And so just looking at a model that can allow for those variables to be considered and how we can spread the cost equitably, that's the only comment that I wanted to make. And I had a conversation with Mr. Rizzatello to bring that up to him, but that is what we talked about.
Yep, and that's been turned into Finance Director Carlton.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Councilmember Cleveland.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilmember Williams.
Okay, if there's no objection, we adjourn at 8:28 p.m.